My parents called off my 18th birthday celebration because my sister was too distraught. That evening, my grandfather cut ties with them and took me away. A few days ago, I turned 18, but my parents abruptly canceled my party at the last moment because my spoiled older sister insisted on it. Honestly, she wasn't even supposed to be around for the event, which I was thrilled about. But, as luck would have it, her flight got canceled due to massive storms in the Midwest, grounding her plans to head to New York City with her friends 3 days before my birthday. For now, her trip was delayed, and she's been incredibly upset, making my parents tiptoe around her to avoid setting her off. They wouldn't dare upset her. She's the favorite in our family, after all. So much so that, on the morning of my birthday, she demanded my party be scrapped, because if she couldn't enjoy herself, neither could I without hesitation. My parents sent out a message to all the invited guests, and I only found out later that evening when I was waiting for everyone to show up. No one arrived. When I asked my parents why it was 7 p.m. and still no guests, they admitted they'd canceled the party without consulting me because my sister was in a bad mood, and they thought it was inappropriate to celebrate while she was upset. That's when I lost it and started yelling at them. It was just so unfair. My parents have always treated my sister differently, prioritizing her needs over mine and expecting me to adapt and compromise my whole life. I've done that, but this was crossing a line. They were the ones who offered to throw me a big 18th birthday party, inviting all my friends and family for a grand celebration. Yet they canceled it without telling me, just because my sister was complaining about her canceled trip, which was out of anyone's control. They even lied to the guests, saying I was suddenly ill with a migraine and asked everyone not to contact me until the next day to avoid me using my phone. So no one texted me and I was left in the dark until the last minute. When they finally told me, I exploded, arguing and shouting at them. I was furious. Who wouldn't be? Even then, their only concern was that I was being too loud and might wake my sister from her nap. I didn't care and kept yelling until my sister came downstairs, defending our parents and claiming they did nothing wrong. She said she was the one who didn't want any celebrations while she was so upset, calling it insensitive. She had the nerve to call me spoiled and entitled for not seeing her side, which pushed me over the edge. I cursed at her and grabbed her hair, trying to shake some sense into her. Things got physical, and our parents had to pull us apart. In the chaos, we didn't hear the doorbell until we stopped fighting. My parents were certain they'd uninvited everyone, but when they opened the door, my grandfather stood there. My paternal grandfather is a formidable figure, respected and feared by everyone in the family, including my parents. His arrival wasn't good news for them. He stepped inside, demanding to know why there was so much shouting and swearing. He looked to me for answers since I was the loudest. Normally, I wouldn't share how my parents treated me because it felt trivial. But this time, I held nothing back and told my grandfather everything. I was fed up with my parents and sister, and I saw no reason to hide the truth anymore. It would only embolden them to mistreat me further. It was time to speak out, so I did. I also revealed that my sister being favored wasn't a one-time thing. It's been a daily struggle for all 18 years of my life. This was the final straw, and I couldn't take it anymore. My grandfather was visibly shocked, his face showing disbelief. Within moments, he turned to my father and began scolding him. I learned things I hadn't known before. My grandfather revealed he'd been sending my parents money every month for years to support their struggling business and our family. He was the one funding us, including the party they tried to take credit for. He told my parents they disappointed him by treating me this way, pointing out that my behavior showed clear signs of trauma from their favoritism toward my sister. My parents stayed silent, but my sister, ever foolish, argued with him, saying she only wanted the party canceled because her long-awaited New York trip was postponed, and it was cruel to celebrate while she was suffering. My grandfather didn't entertain her nonsense, calling her entitled for demanding I cancel my 18th birthday over her feelings about a trip she could take later. He told her the world didn't revolve around her, which seemed to surprise her. Her arguing only angered him more, and he ultimately told my parents he was done supporting them financially. They were on their own. Then he turned to me, saying I could pack my things and come with him if I wanted to leave, as it was clear my parents only cared about my sister. Even then, my parents were more upset about losing his financial support than about me moving out, proving his point that they didn't care about me. I didn't hesitate. While my parents tried to negotiate with my grandfather to keep his support, I went upstairs, packed my belongings, and left with him. He didn't even glance back at his son as we drove away. On the way to his place, he apologized for everything I'd endured, saying he should have intervened long ago. I'm not sure what he meant, but I'm just glad to be staying with him now. The only ones unhappy about this are my parents, who have been relentlessly trying to contact me. I haven't blocked them yet, but I haven't responded either. I've ignored their calls and messages, though I've read them all. They've sent apologies, claiming they didn't think things through and always prioritized my sister because she's more sensitive, unintentionally neglecting me. They said they thought I was strong enough to handle it. But my sister is nearly 5 years older. She should be the one mature enough to share her parents. I didn't believe their excuses, knowing they only wanted me back to secure my grandfather's support. All I wanted was a genuine apology, but it never came, which frustrated me even more. This morning, I told my father to stop contacting me, saying I knew their apologies were fake and driven by their need for my grandfather's money. I was done with them. They showed their true priorities by canceling my party without asking me. That was the final straw, and I told them I was never returning. Instead of apologizing, my father admitted they'd treated me unfairly, but said they were willing to make it up to me. They made the mistake of saying they'd do anything. So I told them I'd only consider returning and talking to my grandfather about supporting them if they promised my sister would no longer live with us. She's 23, has been working for 2 years, and should have saved enough to move out. I didn't think my demand was unreasonable, but my parents called it cruel and absurd. So now I'm wondering if I was wrong for telling my parents I'd only return if my sister moved out. To clarify, as I mentioned earlier, it's always been small, petty incidents. I was always told to leave the last piece of food, like pizza, for my sister if she liked it, and I could only have it if she didn't. I wasn't allowed to wear clothes she liked, as my parents said she had her own style and I shouldn't copy it, meaning I couldn't wear anything fashionable. I mostly wore her hand-me-downs since we're similar in size, and they rarely bought me new clothes, calling it unnecessary. She's always been their top priority. While these things seem minor, they pile up. I never thought they were worth mentioning to relatives, as they didn't seem serious enough for anyone to take me away. So I stayed quiet to avoid angering my parents further. As for my grandfather, he's a commanding presence because everyone in the family admires and respects him. He was a top lawyer in his day, winning tough cases, and he's very principled, disciplined, and wealthy. Naturally, everyone looks up to him. I could have told him about my parents' treatment, but until last year he was busy caring for my grandmother in her final days. I didn't want to burden him with my complaints when he was dealing with so much. After her passing, he was grieving, so I didn't bring it up. Now that he's offered to help, I'm deeply grateful. We've always had a strong bond, so it's no surprise he's letting me stay with him until college. He's even covering all my expenses until I start working. I'm sticking to the condition I gave my parents. I have no intention of returning, even if they kick my sister out. I just want to see if they'll do it to prove they value me, or if they prioritize her over my grandfather's support. I haven't told my grandfather about this condition, but I recently learned things they kept from me, so I think it's fair. My grandfather revealed that my parents never truly wanted me. They only planned to have one child, my sister. 5 years later, my mother got pregnant with me, and they intended to terminate the pregnancy. My dad told my mother's parents, who insisted they keep me, calling it a blessing. My maternal grandparents convinced them, but when my mother was 8 months pregnant, they died in a tragic car accident. Devastated, my mother had a mental breakdown, blaming me for bad luck. She was briefly institutionalized and improved, but my parents subconsciously resented keeping the pregnancy. They planned to put me up for adoption, but my paternal grandparents intervened, refusing to let it happen. So my parents raised me reluctantly. My grandfather shared this when I asked about his comment that he should have acted sooner. I agree he should have. Now that I know why my parents treated me differently, I'm certain I'll never return. They punished me for years for something beyond my control. At least I'm holding them accountable for their actions. I'm a bit upset with my grandfather for not telling me sooner, but I understand it's a tough topic, especially for a kid. He's the only one I can rely on now, so I'm trying not to hold it against him. It's been 9 days since I left home, and my parents have been texting, trying to change my mind about my condition, but I haven't responded. I didn't think it was necessary until they made a decision. They stopped contacting me for 3 days, and I thought they'd given up. But today, after school, I saw my sister waiting outside, giving me a bad feeling. I asked a male friend, a football player, to walk me home. He's big, and I knew he'd protect me if my sister tried anything. We've been close for years, and he knows everything about my family, so he agreed. My sister followed us silently, creeping me out. Halfway home, I confronted her about what she wanted. She refused to talk in front of my friend, but I said I didn't want to speak to her at all. She claimed our parents were stressed because of me and my behavior, then said they told her I wouldn't return or talk to my grandfather about supporting them unless she was kicked out. She confronted me, calling it unfair. I thought it was absurd she expected a discussion, so I told her if I couldn't be happy, neither could she, using her own logic from canceling my party. She screamed, calling me a horrible person. I ignored her, kept walking with my friend, and flipped her off. That set her off, and she tackled me to the ground. My backpack and her weight pinned me, but my friend quickly pulled her off. When I got up, he was holding her at arm's length effortlessly. I was right to have him with me, knowing her violent tendencies. Furious that she thought she could attack me, I slapped her hard and warned that if she tried anything again, I'd call the police. With the trouble she's caused, our parents wouldn't appreciate more. She tried to argue, but my friend and I walked away, and after the slap, she didn't follow. Back home, I told my grandfather, who wanted to call the police, but I said it wasn't worth it. She's just pathetic and likely learned her lesson. She's already on thin ice with our parents. I told my grandfather about the condition I set, expecting him to be upset, but he laughed, thinking it was clever and agreeing my parents deserved it. Despite being sore from the fall, I felt great finally standing up to my sister. She had it coming. I hope my parents and sister learn from this and leave me alone. I start college in September, so I'll only be with my grandfather for a few months as high school ended. I graduated recently, and my prom date was my boyfriend, the football player friend. Some of you guessed it. I wanted to share that happy note before updating about my parents and sister. 2 days after my run-in with my sister, my parents messaged me, saying they decided to let her stay because I'm not the kind of person they want around her, claiming I've always been jealous and petty. They admitted they only wanted me back for my grandfather's support, but my mother's brother stepped in as a business investor, so they no longer needed it or me. They thought this would hurt me, but I already knew their motives, so it didn't faze me. I didn't reply. Their lack of response must have bothered them, as they sent another message hours later, saying they were blocking me for being horrible, heartless, violent, and ungrateful. Violent because I slapped my sister, ignoring that she attacked me first, likely because she didn't tell them. Ungrateful because, despite raising me, feeding me, and paying for school and clothes, I dared call them bad parents. I don't know why parents think basic care makes them exceptional, but mine believe it's enough to demand gratitude. I wanted to respond, but decided it wasn't worth my time. Before they could block me, I blocked them first. My grandfather and I are doing well. I've been accepted to several colleges and am waiting to hear from top ones, with my grandfather covering expenses as promised. We're adjusting to living together, and I sometimes get mad that he didn't intervene sooner. But he's trying to make up for it, and I know he had his own limitations. We're working together so I never have to face my parents alone again. I hope they never contact me. My dad's side of the family, thanks to my grandfather, has cut them off after learning how I was treated. My mom's side still talks to them, but my parents have been ostracized, and it's their fault. I heard my sister finally moved out last week, which prompted this update. My boyfriend and I are going strong, meeting on weekends since my college is nearby. I've made new friends and feel like a new person. My grandfather is my favorite person, and despite his past mistakes, I've forgiven him. We're closer than ever, and I'm truly happy now.